Welcome to this place and this time, so that we may share remembrances and stand as witnesses to the destruction of families and places in the world by people who have no love or compassion for humanity. My name is Audrey Brooks, and I serve as chaplain at this church, and I'm also on the board of the Edmonton Interfaith Center for Education and Action, and these are the two sponsors for the annual Genocide Memorial Service. Our mandate is to work for peace and to promote understanding among faith groups, and the theme for our gathering today is We Are All Family. We may come from different parts of the world, be of many sizes and shapes and colors, but we have the same beginning and we have the same endings. We are sacred in our birthing, we are sacred in our living, we are sacred in our dying, because we come from the same Creator, however we define and understand and celebrate that origin. If you look at the banners in this room, you will see that the inspiration for spiritual growth in this congregation come from all of the religious resources, the faith resources that you see here. And our recent dedication of the Cree banner over there in April brought to us the gift of the nations that were here first, the First Nations, and whose land we are, and whose land we share, and whose land we honor. Unless we remembered that we were related many ways, we break off like branches of a tree because of violence, anger, and anything that separates us from one another. We are the tree. When terrible storms are inflicted upon us, if we are not recognizing the fact that we are all family and that we come from the same place, then it's so much easier for destruction and hate and separation to be inflicted upon us. We share food, as all families do, and this is what we'll do after this service. We do that because we are blessed by all of the volunteers, Gordon, Bill, singers, musicians, and the hands that created the food. That's part of family. I'll bet a lot of us spend time barbecuing and doing all kinds of connections with people that we know because it stopped raining for a while. I have a pansy that my daughter gave me for Mother's Day that I have to dump the water out of practically every day. No gathering in this church would be complete without acknowledging that family relationship I mentioned with the people of Treaty 6 territory on which we live. And we don't smudge. We thought about doing that, but there are those of us who have allergies to those kinds of things. And so we have just decided not to do that this year. I'm going to invite Valerie Wood in just a couple seconds to come up and give us the blessing from the First Nations. And as it is our custom, we have an arrangement with each other. Valerie works as a parole officer with the Correctional Resources of Canada. Valerie, would you come up, please? I offer tobacco to Valerie, as is the custom to bind our agreement for her to be with me today. And tobacco is a sacred herb, along with cedar and sweetgrass and sage. And it honors Mother Earth for sharing her abundance with us. Valerie, please.
As we gather here today, we respectfully acknowledge we are gathered on Treaty 6 territory, the ancestral and territorial lands for diverse Indigenous people, including the Cree, Assiniboine, Ojibwe, Métis, and many others, whose history, language, and cultures continue to enhance our vibrant communities. We pay our respect to the First Nations and Métis ancestors of this place and reaffirm our relationships with each other. Before I begin my blessing, I would like to acknowledge the National Inquiry, which has recently acknowledged the missing and murdered Aboriginal women and has now classified that the murder of the Aboriginal women is now considered a Canadian genocide. I would also like to acknowledge the groups who would like an inquiry into the missing and murdered Aboriginal men and boys. I humble myself before the Creator and ask for blessings as we remember and honor all the victims of genocide. May this blessing and our prayers for healing help to restore harmony and balance in our communities. Let us begin the blessing by honoring the Eastern Door, from where we get visions and guidance. May each of us get the vision and guidance to proceed in a good way. From the Southern Door, where we get the energies of the family, please let's honor the families of those that have passed on, the families of those that are healing, and let us also honor our own families. From the Western Door, where we receive our challenges and strengths to meet those challenges, let us all receive the strength to meet the challenges that face our families and communities and our country. Please, Creator, give us that strength. From the Northern Door, where we receive the sacred ways and our sacred ancestors, please let us honor those ancestors, for without them we would not be here. Let us honor all those who have passed on. Let us look within ourselves to see how we can improve and be better human beings. From Mother Earth, who nurtures all things through her many gifts, may we use those gifts in a positive way to help our fellow brothers and sisters on their journeys. As we come together today, Creator, let us pray for and bless all those impacted by genocide. Bless the families of those that have lost their loved ones. Bless the families of those that are healing. Bless those people that are here today. Let us bless those people that are outside in Greater Edmonton and in our country. Let us bless them so that they too can heal. As we reflect on the topic of genocide today, may the words that people hear sink into their hearts so that they too can heal. Creator, I ask this humbly. I ask this so we can all achieve harmony and balance in our lives. All my relations, hi.
Thank you, Valerie. Is Netta Phillet here? Please, Netta. Netta is the person that helps to make the Edmonton Interfaith Center function and is our administrator.
Good morning. And on behalf of the Edmonton Interfaith Center for Education and Action, I want to say two things. I want to say, first of all, that we are very proud and pleased that 11 years ago, Audrey asked us to partner with her on this incredible endeavor, this important initiative. It fits our mandate. We are not a peace group per se, but we are about learning about each other. The more we know about each other, the more we can improve the future, the present and the future. And secondly, I want to also say, on behalf of the board, that we are so lucky and proud and pleased to have board members like Audrey who make things happen. Effective, hard-working, passionate board members without whom these events wouldn't exist. And she chairs 3 of our annual events for the Interfaith Center, not counting this as one because it's a joint program. So hats off to Audrey for doing this year after year, for making us see what needs to be seen. And if every board member were on every board were like Audrey, the world would be fixed. So thank you all. Thank you.
I did not pay for that advertisement. I mentioned the banners before and the fact that our sources of spiritual inspiration come from many faiths. In that context, we consider ourselves to be a part of one huge family, a world family that's worthy of respect and dignity, a world family that has the right to live in safety, to have enough to eat, to be able to prosper on their own land. I know that my Hungarian grandparents came here in 1908 because it was not safe to be where they were in Europe. Angry and powerful people think nothing of killing vulnerable citizens as they ravage the country. I'm sure this is familiar to many of you. Like our friend Inge Hess, who lost her grandparents this way in Prussia, we cannot forget they were murdered simply because they were in the way of an army, and in their case, the Russian army. And we have a stone here today that is going to be dedicated for her grandparents, who are symbolizing the billions of civilians who were merely collateral damage. Our hearts ache for family and friends torn from us by violence and hate, and betrayed by power-hungry monsters who play war games with no compassion for humanity. What we do here today is give public witness to genocide. Everywhere it occurs in the world. The ones who died are now our ancestors, as Valerie mentioned. We are their children. We are their memory keepers. The memory keepers, that is a phrase that I borrowed from the Rwandan people, who are the memory keepers and who every year have a memorial service for the people of Rwanda. This is a covenant we make. We are one people, one creation. We care for each other. We welcome those seeking refuge in our towns and cities. And this church has sponsored refugees. The Adam family is one of them, and I think Brian knows them very well. We learn their names. We walk with them as they navigate our culture, enjoy the new traditions they bring to our families, including food. I had roti yesterday. I had, well, you know how I like to eat. The traditions that they bring. I learned from the Ahmadiyya Muslims to read the Quran one year. And there is a stone for them here today as they face persecution. I would like to invite Ava Faust, Jagjeet Bhardwaj, Kathie, Reith, to tell us why we should give thanks today. Will you come forward, please? Oh, I'm sorry. Before you do that, Naomi, you're late. But that's okay. Naomi is a member of the Stroll of Poets with me, and she's a wonderful, wonderful Cree and English poet, and is allowed to be late. She's a canoeer, a hiker, a biker, a walker, and I don't know what else. But you can talk for yourself.
Good morning. Sorry I'm late. So I'm really quite honored. Thank you, Audrey, for asking me to come and share a poem about family. And I was quite inspired to write I have some poems about family, but I thought I'd write a new one. And it's kind of fitting because Audrey talked about barbecues, and we've had some sun yesterday and today, so I've been thinking about picnics. So my poem has a picnic in it, but then Valerie, you talked about the eastern door, the southern door, the western door, the northern door. And I consider my poem a kind of an open door because I was born about a 10-minute walk from here in the Royal Alec. But I was thinking about when you go on picnics, there's just people from everywhere, and there's families from everywhere. So I may not have every group in my poem, but it's an open door. So this is called Some Families. And then I have a very, very short poem in Cree after that. Some families. There's a picnic in the park, and some men in some families wear ball caps or turbans or cowboy hats. There's even a guy in a fedora. Some young men in some families wear toques, even though it's plus 30 degrees Celsius. Some women in some families wear veils because they're sisters, or khustas because they're Ukrainian, and some women in some families wear hijabs, niqabs, or burqas because they're Muslim, or tikhelas because they're Jewish, or prayer coverings if they're Plymouth Brethren or Mennonite. In some families, the teenagers wear moccasins, or flip-flops, or Birkenstocks, or holy sneakers, or sketchy Skechers, or shit kickers, pardon me, or army boots and army greens. The young women in some families wear saris and gungats and dupattas because they're Hindu, Jain, or Sikh. Other young women at the picnic wear tank tops and bikini bottoms. At the picnic, there's a mini powwow happening, and the families eat pakwisakan, pimihkan, musuwias, ekwa pasquala mustosuwias, ekwa buffalo boss, and Saskatoon soup, misasquatumina apoy. Over yonder, lots of families eat hot dogs and hamburgers slathered in ketchup and mustard and relish, maybe raw diced onions, while other families eat veggie samosa pinwheels, or idli, milagay podi, or spring rolls and mooncakes. On Sunday, some of the families go to the Sherwood Park Our Lady of Perpetual Help Church, or to the North Side Salvation Army, or to the South Side Pentecostal Assembly, or the Unitarian Church of Edmonton, or the Crestwood Presbyterian or Grace Lutheran Church. On Saturday, some of the families go to the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and some go to the Shabbat services at the Beth Shalom Synagogue. Some families pray to the Lord, or to God, or Yahweh, or Allah, or Jehovah, or Buddha, or Kisei Mantu, or the great-grandfathers and great-grandmothers, or Tzapanak. In some families, they pray to the Great Mystery, or to the trees, or the stars, or the moon, or the sun. In some families, they have O positive type blood, and in other families, they have A positive, or B positive, or B, or O minus, or A minus, or B positive, or AB positive, or B minus, or heaven forbid, AB minus. In all families, we all bleed red, so we are all one family, every one of us. So I'll just share one more short poem. It's just four lines, and it's in Cree. It goes like this. Akameamok. Witse pimotemik ka miotamon. Mitotamok. Mio pimatisik equamina miotehik kakike. And in English, persevere. Walk together along a road that is good. Do good things, live a good life, and always have a kind heart. Hi. Thank you.
I just gave her forgiveness. And you can imagine why. When I grow up, I want to be a poet like her. Now may we have Ava and Jagjeet and Kathie to come forward and tell us why we give thanks for this day.
We give thanks for this day, for the expanding beauty of creation, of worlds known and unknown, filling us with surprise and wonder, and for being here with each other. We give thanks for this day.
We give thanks for the joy of human life in our world, for the mothers, the fathers, and children living in our human community that we love. We have in our hearts the desire for peace. Therefore, we pray and work for peace.
For understanding, we are all related, and we live our lives the same way. Even though we may live in different places and are different colors, shapes, and sizes, we give thanks for our huge human family.
We have all worked and we have all rested. We have listened to the wise and the fools. We have been betrayed and often lost, yet found our way to this new place where we give thanks for our changed lives.
We will not forget who was lost to us, and we will hold their memories in our hearts. We must live our lives with honor in order that their names are always blessed. We give thanks for having had their love.
For human freedom and opportunity to be able to live in healthy and safety, to have prayers, to have faith, to sing, we give thanks for all of these gifts. We will never again live in our fears. We pledge to have hope in our lives, hope in each other and in you. As people created from one sacred source, we give thanks and remember this truth. We are one people and cannot be divided.
Confession. Ava, Jagjeet, and Kathie are also members of the Edmonton Interfaith Center. And what would we do without their leadership for many, many, many years? And now, Sebastian, I'm going to tell things about you. He's an accomplished musician and community activist that I've known since almost the Ark, who dedicates his life to serving others. He's president of Cromdale Community League, where he developed the Create Art music program, which is free and accessible to all. This successful program has evolved incredibly to include mural art, creative writing, spoken word, media development, and theater, among other things. And my son Joel, where are you, Joel? We did murals with Sebastian, and oh my goodness, he also is a wonderful musician. Take it away.
I used to sing on LRT stations in Edmonton for 2 years. Well, let's go back to the topic. In every single oppressive system, the first person that the oppressive system tackles most of the time are politicians and artists. And in my country, from Chile, in the 70s, more than 5,000 people disappear, and many people have to run out of the country, and a lot of them immigrate to Canada. So when we talk about genocide and when we talk about persecution, there's so many people around the world escaping for this imperialism, most of the time motivated for resources, money, and capital. So the song that I will sing today is one song who honors First Nations communities all over the world because they were the first people to be exterminated. Mapuche communities in the south of Chile battled 300 years against colonization. Isn't the story that not a lot of people know, and they're still battling today against big corporations. They has been called terrorists by our country and our laws, and some of them are still in jail today for crimes committed against big companies who are trying to take their lands. I just don't want to overpower the guitar. How is the volume there? It's not too much? Okay. This song is from Brazil. It's a father trying to teach his son how to love, how to be respectful, and how hard it is today, how to teach a little son how to love.
Acredita em milagres. sabe dizer a verdade. É isso aí, um vendedor de flores que ensina seus filhos a escolher seus amores. Eu não sei parar de te olhar. Eu não sei parar de te olhar. Não vou parar de te olhar. Eu não me canso de olhar. Não sei parar de te olhar.
Okay, and now check. 1, 2. Now we're gonna sing that song that try to honor First Nations communities all over the planet.
Oh,
Thank you so much.
Can you imagine the wonderful experience that young children have, particularly those who are challenged with life journey things, having this lovely man as their teacher, a soul teacher, my love. And now I would like to, please do. I would like to invite the minister of this church, Reverend Brian Kiely, my mentor and bellwether and all kinds of stuff, to come forward and talk to us for a minute.
Good morning. Let me add my welcome to Audrey's and everyone else's. It is lovely to have you here today for this Genocide Memorial Service. Ours is a community where we attempt to be as broad and diverse and as welcoming as we as fallible humans are able to do. So we hope that you will feel welcome. And one of the things I've noticed in my career in ministry, in that whatever kind of religious community one enters, there is a community formed on a particular day that's different from every other week, every other month, every other service. So today, you are the community of this church. You are the family of this church. It is an emotional service. It is a challenging service. And families have many complexities to them. And so I want to reflect for a moment on a poem written by a colleague of mine, Stephen Sheikh, on useful anger. Because somewhere in all of this, as we consider the topic of genocide, there is likely to be bubbling moments of anger. Stephen begins with a brief couplet from the poet Marge Piercy. A good anger swallowed clots the blood to slime, she says. Stephen continues, but what is to be done with it, this anger that dare not be swallowed? Should it be diluted with denial, cooled with indifference? Should it be sweetened with good intentions or softened with lies? Should it be spewed out red hot over searing tongues, scorching the guilty and the innocent alike? What's to be done with it, this anger that dare not be swallowed? Don't dilute it, or deny it, or cool it. Don't sweeten it, or soften it. But pause for a moment. Pause for a moment. Could you hold it before your eyes, examine it with your heart and mind? Could you hold it, then touch it to your belly, that place where your soul rests? Could you let it enter there, knowing it is part of you, that a part that needs to be treated kindly, that needs to be listened to, that needs to be honored? For it has the power to save you, to save us all. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you so much, Brian. Now I'd like to invite Erica DeNeve to come forward and read the Prayer for Humanity by one of our Unitarian ministers, Mr. Meserve.
Good morning, everyone. From arrogance, pompousness, and from thinking ourselves more important than we are, may some saving sensibility liberate us. For allowing ourselves to ridicule the faith of others, may we be forgiven. For making war and calling peace, special privilege and clinging justice, indifference and calling it tolerance, pollution and calling it progress, may we be cured. For telling ourselves and others that evil is inevitable, while good is impossible, may we stand corrected. God of our mixed up, tragic, aspiring, doubting, and insurgent lives, help us to be as good as we have always wanted to be in our hearts.
And to bring us a blessing for Shalom, please, Netta. We navigate Beth Shalom and Beth Ora and Beth Israel, sometimes at the same time. Oh, you want me to give it to you?
I do, because I forgot it. And it was nice to hear Naomi mention Beth Shalom Synagogue, because my family has worshipped there since it was founded in the early, now I better get this right, well, mid-1950s. This is from the Gates of Repentance, which was written almost 800 years ago. O source of peace, lead us to peace. A peace profound and true, lead us to healing, to mastery of all that drives us to war within ourselves and others. May our deeds inscribe us in the book of life and blessing, and to righteousness and peace. O source of peace, bless us with peace. Amen.
And now the blessing that we've been waiting for. We have 4 speakers today. The first one is Joseph Luri, who I met at first legislature, talking about the terrible things that were going on in Sudan, and also met him through Project Ploughshares. He's an activist and community organizer who fights for the rights of the voiceless, continues to work with youth and children, is the founder of the Sky Club that mentors children with academic and social needs. He's one of the founding members of the Africa Center in Edmonton, and he works for the Mennonite Center for Newcomers, whom we all bless for the monumental work that they do in our society. Joseph.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this memorial service. It's a very important thing for us to put humanity first. I am originally from the Sudan, and so today in the Sudan, there's continuing crimes against humanity. 5 million people have been put at risk, and thousands have been killed. Both in the north and south, the citizens are being displaced so that they can meet their faith. 4 important things are being done that are so negative by those in authority. One is a deliberate mass killing, raping women and men, denying food, security and displacement, propagating hate, and the government sponsoring tribal groups against each other. What are the causes of this? The causes of these are the thirst for power and control, corruption, and greed for wealth, which eventually causes disregard for humanity and citizens. In the South, today, more than 2 million people have been internally displaced. They've come to be known as the IDPs, or the internally displaced. Many have been killed internally, displaced in camps, under the watch of the United Nations mission that is right there to protect them, but has no authority. They are just doing nothing. In Darfur, 3 million have been victimized. Between 100,000 and 400,000 people have been killed. That is the estimate. The government has deliberately equipped the Jagjeet militia with guns to go after the population in Darfur. No leader to this day has been held accountable for all these mass killings, the raping, the displacement, imprisonment without any charges or formal trial, and the list goes on and on. Basically, in Darfur, they just put the pastoralists against the farmers. So the pastoralists are allowed to graze help their animals graze in the farms of the farmers. Today, I believe the lessons we have learned from the genocide should be our tools to prevent and stop any future genocide happening. Let us not stand idle to watch leaders turn on the citizens for fear of a different opinion. Let us not stand idle to watch the leaders recruit the medical doctors to turn against their patients because they belong to a group that must be eliminated on the planet. Let us not stand idle to watch the teachers help the leaders by turning against their students because they have come from a group that must be eliminated. Let us agree to disagree without turning against each other and perpetuate no acts of hatred and murder in the name of genocide. Those who were victims should not stand idle and quiet in fear. Stand up to speak for the voiceless and educate those who have taken it for granted or do not know. As the theme goes today, we are all family. It tells us indeed we are one family, a family that should be defined by humanity, because our common denominator is that we are humans first before anything. We are united in oneness because we have common characteristics and understands or can distinguish between what is right and what is wrong. Where there is will, there is a way. And so genocide is just an atrocity that we can all stop. According to Henry Ford, coming together is the beginning, keeping together is progress, working together is success. Please keep the light burning. We can eliminate genocide and not allow it to happen again. By coming together, keeping together, and working together, let us all agree today that we are all human and will never plan to destroy other humans simply because of hatred and disagreement. We will stand up against any form of massacre, whether it being lives being taken away or cultures being destroyed. It all leads to the devastating and devaluation of lives that are eventually eliminated. My personal experience is that my mother was killed in the war in the Sudan because of mass bombings with the military aircrafts. And so I am a survivor and a victim of the mass killings that have been perpetuated. Thank you for the organizers of this event. Thank you for the participants, for your humanity and sympathy. Thank you to the speakers for sharing your knowledge and experience. Let us all join hands together to ensure that nobody suffers any unnecessary suffering. God bless you.
I need a breath. Let's just take a breath. I would like to invite my dear friend, Sheikh. I can't always get your name always. Sheikh and I were colleagues at the Interfaith Chaplains Association for many years. A dear friend, a great thinker, an inclusive Muslim, and a beloved soul.
So that's the Sheikh. That's the first name.
It was the Sheikh part that I couldn't get.
Good day, everyone. Thank you very much for coming, and thanks to Audrey for putting this together for so many years. And thanks to Brian for welcoming us into your place of service and worship. We do appreciate that because everybody needs a place to voice their concern. I came to Canada in the 70s after living in Egypt for almost 30 years. And the reason I left Egypt is I needed more room for my mind to think. I needed to lift up that ceiling where everybody tells you what to think and what to do. Canada was an open field for me, and I think it is for everybody. The theme of the get-together today is we are all family. And it is very true, we are. But there is an underside to this statement, and there is a dark side to this. And to explain what I mean, I'm going to bring you to what we are told in all the scriptures, the monotheistic scriptures, Jewish, Christian, and Muslim. There is a story that is narrated and repeated in all the scriptures over the time about the two sons of Adam, that one killed the other. In the earlier scriptures, it's more defined. It is Cain and Abel. In the later scriptures, it's more generic into reference of the two sons of Adam, that one killed the other. But the reason that is mentioned in the Quran, I don't know how it is in the Bible and the Torah, that it is envy over an offering that one offered to God and was accepted, and the other one offered whatever he could, and his offering was not accepted because it wasn't sincere. So it is envy, and it is embedded into humans, and God is telling us that it is a built-in feature for us to turn on each other. When it comes from a member of the family, it hurts more because there is betrayal. When you have an enemy, you make your due diligence to fight it. But when it is a stab in the back, it hurts. And again, we are told that whoever killed one innocent human being, that constitutes killing all human race. It is the essence of taking a soul or spirit out of existence, or trying to. I'm going to bring two examples, very specific examples to illustrate what I'm saying. You probably by now, for sure, heard about Adnan Khashoggi, the journalist that was working with the Times in the States. And when he went to get a visa for his fiancée, he was betrayed, taken in the Saudi consulate, and was hacked to pieces. This is somebody who trusted his family, where he grew up in, and went in just for an administrative issue. Whatever the reason is, he was hacked to pieces. And we know that part of the story, but we don't know the ins and outs and where and go the other questions that's in the mind. But what we know is that much. He was betrayed by his own family. If you listen to the news yesterday, there is a name that was mentioned. For me, it was the first time to hear. Hudan Analia, a Somali-Canadian woman that was killed, betrayed by her own people, with his family, with her husband, and she was there to celebrate her heritage. And she was taken out. So that's again betrayal by people's own family. Does that constitute genocide? Of course it does. When a person is taken like this, it is as if you have killed all humankind. And of course, we all have been living this saga of the indigenous women that has been disappearing over that stretch of time. And again, it is a family betrayer to take an innocent life out and sweep it under the carpet, the human tapestry of a carpet. Of course, I don't have all the time, and I shouldn't speak all the time, but I'm just going to share with you, for this particular event that we have attending, I have brought a stone. And I brought this stone in 2013 from Mecca, where we go for pilgrimage. And right on top of the mountain, where people gather to answer the call of God for pilgrimage to be there, I have picked that stone. And if you know the arrangement, there's no pockets. So I kept it in my hand till I managed to brought it here. It has been in my house for that length of time. Yesterday, I colored it a bit. Black for sorrow and red for blood. I'm going to leave it in the care of Audrey to mark this occasion. Thanks a million.
Another moment of silence for those people who died in those kinds of things. Thank you. I met Boyko, Zlatev, and Diana several years ago when I was also chaplain at the university, and there was an interesting presentation that they made about someone I had never heard of and about a foundation I had never heard of. Boyko and his wife Diana are from Bulgaria, where they worked for the government before coming to Edmonton and becoming citizens here. They're both involved with the Roerich Peace Foundation in Bulgaria, and in 2013 in Edmonton they created lectures and publications about the Roerich family and their contribution to the peace movement, and began the Alberta Banner Peace Association. The Zlatev started the Bulgarian Heritage Society here, and they both teach. Boyko math, and Diana teaches the Bulgarian language to young people who are from Bulgaria. And they have two very, very sweet children, which they didn't bring today. Boyko, please.
Good morning, everybody. It's an honor and blessing for me to participate in this genocide memorial service today. I am myself a descendant of refugees who escaped from a genocide. But today I am here as a participant in what is now known as International Roerich Movement. It was initiated by the Russian-born artist Nicholas Roerich and his wife Helena Roerich, in Latvia in 1919, which is 100 years ago. So this year is a centennial year for the movement. The Roerichs were inspired by another movement, the Theosophical Society, founded in the last quarter of 19th century by Helena Petrovna Blavatsky and Colonel Henry Olcott, as an unsectarian body of seekers after truth, with the main goal to promote universal brotherhood and sisterhood of all people, of all nations, ethnicities, genders, religions, of all people in the world. The main achievement of the Roerichs and of the movement they started was the Roerich Pact, the first international treaty for protection of cultural property. It was signed on April 15th, 1935, by the President of the United States, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and by 21 representatives of the member states of the Pan American Union. These are almost all countries of Latin America. What is cultural property? These are all museums, universities, libraries, galleries, monuments, architecture sites, temples of all religions. All these were protected according to the Roerich Pact. During wartime, they were to be proclaimed neutral under a special flag designed by Nicholas Roerich, the banner of peace. And there was also protection for them during time of peace. Unfortunately, European countries did not sign the Roerich Pact. There was an opposition from some political and military circles. They argued that such a treaty would be an obstacle to military activities. Nicholas Roerich answered that this is exactly the idea, to put a restriction to military actions, because he considered this as an important step towards achieving the world peace. But the European politicians didn't listen, as at that time they were already preparing for the Second World War. After the war, there were other treaties on the same topic. However, they all were a large step backwards, because until 21st century, none of them provided the level of protection which Roerich Pact did. Nowadays, the Roerich movement, under the banner of peace, has a mission to educate people, to promote the ideas underlying the Roerich Pact. April 15th, the date Roerich Pact was signed, is observed now around the world as a universal day of culture. And so far it is a statutory holiday in Lithuania and officially recognized in Argentina, and in near future will be recognized as well by other countries. So this is something we also do here in Alberta Banner of Peace Association here in Edmonton. We also observe the Universal Day of Culture and also do other activities. But it came out that not everybody is okay with such activities, and probably the most alarming example was in Russia 2 years ago, where Roerich Museum in Moscow was invaded and then closed by the Russian authorities, and the exposition of the museum was partially destroyed and most part of it confiscated by the Russian Ministry of Culture. Why is this so important in the context of today's Genocide Memorial Service? Because the genocide on one side and the destruction of places of worship, of places of knowledge, of objects of beauty on the other side, those two quite often go together or follow each other. And as the famous German poet Heinrich Heine said, where they burn books, they will, in the end, burn human beings too. So we are all familiar with such occurrences during the world wars and more recently in former Yugoslavia, in Afghanistan, in Syria, in Somalia, and in many other places. And like the genocide, the destruction of material artifacts of the cultural heritage is a crime not only against particular nation or ethnic group, it's a crime against humanity, a crime against all generations of the past, present, and future. As the genocide, the destruction of cultural property causes irreversible loss for the world, and it shouldn't be allowed to happen again. And I would conclude with something which may seem a digression here, but it is not. In 1920s, Nicholas Roerich created a series of paintings depicting the spiritual leaders of the humanity, belonging and founders of different religious traditions, with Moses and Buddha and Jesus and Muhammad and Zoroaster and many others, with a central figure being the mother of the world, the universal mother figure. It was recently discovered by some professors in history of art that the horizon lines in these paintings, when Earth meets the sky, they are actually, if put together, this is one continuous line which goes through all of them, which can be considered as artistic expression of the same idea that we are all brothers and sisters of all traditions and of all centuries, that we are all family. Thank you. And thank you, Audrey, for inviting me here.
Thank you, Boyko. When I sent out the general invitation to the Genocide Memorial Service for this year, we had our friend Abraham from Eritrea respond. And would you like to come up, Abraham, and speak, and bring your beautiful wife with you?
Dear Reverend Audrey Brooks and ladies and gentlemen, we are from Eritrea, East Africa. My name is Abraham and Elena. So we can't even express how happy and pleased we are to be invited here in front of you. Just at least to take out a little idea from inside, which is we have a lot, but from that a lot, at least a pinch. And to know, at least to give you an idea about Eritrea and what had been and has been going on, yes, on that country. We Eritreans, is because of the greed of the imperialists, had been fighting for our independence for full 30 years, starting 1961 up to May 24, 1991. After 6 peaceful years, again, because of that greed, they painted that country some evil, okay? And we are still in mental and psychological war. Generally, we lost over 150,000 100,000 lives. And what is our population? Now, it is close to 6.5 million. Kids, seniors, animals were locked in houses, churches, mosques, and burned fire. It is history. No one can change it. No one can deny it. No one. And still, if you check, if you Google out Eritrea, the mass media tells you it is an evil country. In every corner of the cities and in the country, there is a shooting. People are dying or something, and so, endless. But all this is a lie. Lie. There is no a peaceful country, yes, neighboring countries like Eritrea. Never. Never. But they pushed us. They pushed the young generation. They pushed everybody to leave the country. Even we couldn't live, yes, peacefully in our own country. It is because Eritrea is in East Africa, very strategic area, and rich in natural resources. And we have over 1,200 Red Sea, coast. It is very strategic. It is because of that we are having problems. Last time we met, one group, Croatian group, at the park. That time we had a memorial day of our martyrs. Every year, June 20 is our martyrs' day. So we went there to mourn, to cry. And the Croatians were there to enjoy with their kids and to have fun. And we met there. That day was like, for us, that day was pre-prepared by God, but the Almighty God, to introduce each other with those groups. And that's why today we are here. Today we are here, and we are really, really very pleased and very happy. Let alone something else. Even we were denied to get the international help for our people, for those who don't have even to eat. Very thank you. God bless.
My name is Elena Zere Aaron, and he's my brother in my creator. He's not my husband. What I want to say is, all of us, we are M&M or Smarties. All of us. When you open the Smarties, it's chocolate inside. When we open the human being, it's bleed, it's blood. So we are one in Creator. Doesn't matter who we are, what color we are. When I was a little girl, I used to love, because my ancestor is Israeli. So when I was a little girl, I never forget about Joseph, the dreamer, or about Avail and Gael, what our dad, I can say, the wisdoms they were giving us, my ancestor, the Shalom, Beta Shaloms they were giving us. So all of us, we are one. In front of my eyes, my brother Jonah, my sister Sanait, by Ethiopian soldier when I was 8 years old. Our home put by gasoline. My brother Jonah, my sister Sanait, throw them on the fire. 400 children with a lunchbox. The Ethiopian soldier, they came. They put Kararmata tank. They dash them. This is not 100 years ago. This is just 25 years, 30 years ago. How many in the mosque? In Eritrea, we welcome everybody, every human race. Until today, the first mosque is in Eritrea. The first mosque in the world. In Eritrea, in Madawa. That is because we harmon everybody, Christian, Muslim, all the sign here. But what we learn in our life is, like Joseph, to become forgiving people. We have to teach our children forgiveness, love, harmony, a good citizen, respectful, peaceful, loving. And I bless and I thank today for we are one in one thing because of the war, because of the power, because of the greed, because of I am the bigger or whatever they think. We crushed it, but we didn't die. We are killed, but we came plenty. Because love conquers everything. I thank Revi Andre to invite us and my mother figure, Revi Audrey. I thank you so much. Always teach your kids love, harmony, respect, to live in harmony, not in hatred. Call me in a peace alley. Don't call me in a war alley. Thank you.
I think we need to sing, Gordon. You have song sheets there. John Sibelius wrote, "This is my song, for all of the nations, for all of us together." Please, Gordon.
This is
Please be seated. The most important part of this day, after hearing the words of love and inclusion and righteous indignation and anger and loss, is the presentation and dedication of the stones for this year. I invite for Guatemala, Louise Swift, to come forward. And I'll light a stone for Guatemala.
And the stone says, Guatemala genocide by military forces targeting Maya and Latino peasants and forced disappearance of dissidents. I know a couple, Paco and Letty, who left Guatemala in the 1980s and came to Canada and settled in Edmonton. I know them through Change for Children, an Edmonton-based organization that does work in Central America. He didn't want to leave. He wanted to stay in Guatemala and fight for his country. She wanted a future for their unborn child. She prevailed, and they settled in Edmonton and went on to have 2 more children. All are contributing members of Canadian society, and we are fortunate to have them here. But there were thousands of Guatemalans, 200,000 by most estimates, who didn't have the opportunity to leave their country during the years 1960 to 1996 to escape abuse, violence, torture, and in many cases, death. From 1960 to 1996, there were 626 massacres, 440 villages razed to the ground, 45 to 65,000 murdered, and 40,000 disappeared. I'm humbled today to present this stone of memory and witness to the tragedy in Guatemala.
And we are one, and we are a family indeed. But humanity has been betrayed by humans. Humans setting itself against each other. In the Sudan today, there's so much crime against humanity. 5 million people are under threat from warmongers. Many millions have been displaced into the neighboring countries. No leaders have been held accountable. Many have been killed, hundreds of thousands, in fact. And the pain goes on. And so I feel honored today to be one of those to lay this stone in acknowledgement and remembrance of those who have been killed and those who have survived, such that we can celebrate their resilience. And for all those who have come to acknowledge this. Thank you. God bless.
Sheikh, would you please come forward and dedicate the stone for the Ahmadiyya Muslims? Yes, please, light it.
I'd rather light the stone.
I will get even.
Even the candle is very stubborn. Here we go. I was invited to lay a stone on behalf of the Ahmadiyyas. And the Ahmadiyya Muslim community were persecuted where they started way back then in India. But the main persecution came as where they were announced and proclaimed to be non-Muslims. And the reason being that they follow their own prophet. So I have learned all this after I came living here. I never heard about the Ahmadiyya where I grew up in Egypt. But in here, I put my nose in there and attended their sermons, their meetings, everything. And I do understand their plight. Right now, they are not persecuted anymore because they live here in Canada. That's where their headquarters is after it was in England. But they still feel persecuted. Hence, I'm going to dedicate that stone to them. There's nobody from them that came to present that for themselves. I walk in there, they acknowledge that I am their friend, but I have announced to be a non-sectarian Muslim from way back then. But on the other hand, I am going to dedicate this little stone that, as I said, I brought it myself, to all the victims that were taken out by betrayal of their own people. Thank you.
I'm going to ask Erica DeNeve to come forward and dedicate the stone for war crimes against civilians. But before she does that, I'd like to read a poem she just wrote. Can everyone hear me? Okay. Who will stand as witness when we have managed to kill all that is good within us? When the blood has soaked to the ground and the ravens have finished their feast? When the beasts of the field have fled, the birds of the air ceased their singing, their hearts too broken to hold on to joy. The stones beneath our feet are ever watchful. They witness all of our folly. They hold our sorrow and our tears. This is why they were called the bones of the world. But bones also move forward as well as hold us up. And so these stones connect us, past and future, to not just sorrow, but also have our hope. Thank you, Erica.
Well, I didn't expect she was going to read that then, but okay. This stone that I am dedicating is for civilian persons who have died and been persecuted in wars. And to represent that are the names of Clara and Albert Borowski, who were the grandparents of Inge Hess, a member of this church. They were born in 1876 and 1881, respectively. When the Nazis came to power, Albert lost his position as a city of Königsberg administrator and was forced to move to a small farm where Inge stayed because of the bombing of Dusseldorf. Her mother came for her in 1944, but her grandparents were murdered during the Russian invasion. And so this stone is to represent all of those civilians who did not ask to be caught up in the horrors of war and yet suffered the consequences.
A moment of silence before we conclude. And a dedication for the Eritrean stone. I will do that for you. Would you like to come up and dedicate the stone? Please.
I'm going to dedicate this stone and the light for the children who died in Eritrea, and man and woman, like mothers and young boys, especially 400. They ask them to come for Canada Wheat to get a donation, aid to eat, like for food to eat. That they gather them in mosque, in church. So they bring them out, they dash them all with a tank. So I dedicate this for them and for my sister and brother that even like them that burn in the fire. 8-month baby and 3-year-old. And for all these children, Eritrean, innocent that they died, they don't even know nothing, by Ethiopian and by Russian. This I dedicated for them.
I invite Charles Luck and the Raging Grannies for Peace to come up to sing 2 songs, and I ask you to please join us as you are able. You have the words with you. And after that, just before we have the closing words, we're going to take a collection for the service of this church, and also to pay forward a little bit to help some of the groups that appeared here today. So I ask you to be generous. 2 songs. First one is We Shall Overcome, and then The Strangest Dreams. You can remain sitting, unless you want to get a little exercise, and it's been a long service, and for which I do not apologize.
Someday,
Blessings to you, Charles, for being with us today and being the first time playing here. A collection will be now taken for the work of the church and for the work of this Genocide Memorial Service. While that is happening, I'll say the closing words so that we can get out of here and go and have lunch and have conversation and have some joy with each other. Closing words from me. There isn't anybody or anything that can destroy family bonds or the will to see justice done. The missing, the murdered family members of all nations and the genocides committed in every country where colonial rulers and greed decide who will live and who will not. These ones are called to account with righteous indignation from here. Let us never forget how we are all family. We are part of the beloved community that stands together. Let us take down those walls, build relationships that sustain us against all challenge. Our mission is love. Our race is humanity. Our faith is empowered because we are blessed with each other. Brian, will you lead the prayer that is in your information sheet there, the prayer for the world?
Would you please join me and read responsively a prayer for the world? You'll find it on the back with the pictures of the stones, if you would read the fine print portions. For all who die in war, for all who lie in suffering in the aftermath of violence, for all who give their lives in smoke and flame, for all who go on into honor of the dead, for all who have served, for our country and our world, for a planet that will find peace, for the young and the innocent, for the weary and the war-torn, for those too angry to cry, for all of us, for the many names of God. We lift up our hearts, Shanti, Shalom, Salam, peace.
Please greet each other as you have lunch. And please take a look at the stones. And thank you from the depth of my heart for being present with us today. And may we keep doing this every day, every year that we are alive, that we never, never, never forget that we are one family. Thank you. Yes, we're going to sing Carry the Flame. Sorry. Thank you, Yvonne. It's written in your order of service there, the words to carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again. And we always join hands with each other.